So every 10 years, Sight and Sound chooses a new best film of all time. For the last 6 decades, it was Citizen Kane. And then in 2012, Vertigo took the #1 spot from Alfred Hitchcock. I enjoy Vertigo, but oddly enough, it's not my favorite Hitchcock film. I did a video, me and my wife did, about Alfred Hitchcock's films. We did a top 30. And I would probably say it's in my top 10. I think it was in my top 10. But I will say Sight and Sound's new top 100 films, it was different and it was kind of shocking and I wasn't really expecting it. I did think the #1 film was going to change, but if I'm being completely honest, I thought it was going to be something like 2001: A Space Odyssey. I could have seen that happening. But no, it wasn't. And Citizen Kane did not reclaim its top spot, nor did Vertigo retain it. The film that took over the #1 spot, which I don't even think was in the top 10. No, it wasn't in the top 10 even to begin with. Which, keep in mind, the top 10 Sight and Sound films did change a lot. But that was Chantal Akerman's Jean Dillman 23. I'm not even going to try to pronounce the rest of it, but Jean. This is on the Criterion Collection, and I finally had a chance to watch it. I sat down and I watched all 3.5 hours of it, and I have opinions on it, and I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to dive a little bit deeper into it, and with it being Sight and Sound's #1 film of all time, should you watch it? I mean, you would think it's a very essential watch if it is Sight and Sound's #1 film. I would argue that just because it is Sight and Sound's #1 film, I'll probably check it out, but I'm going to get into it a little bit more. Now, I'm not exaggerating when I say this. This film is literally about a woman who cooks, cleans, takes care of her teenage son, does some naughty things behind the scenes for money, and you're basically just watching her repeat that over for the course of a couple of days. That's it. That's all the film is about. There's a little bit more to it that I wouldn't want to spoil, obviously, for those of you that watch the film, or who are going to watch the film. But yeah, that's it. That's all it is. That's literally all the film is. How could a film like that take over the #1 spot? This film, okay, is better, okay, than Tokyo Story, 2001: A Space Odyssey, Citizen Kane, Vertigo, The Godfather. It's better than all of those. Now, I completely disagree with that. I do not believe that this should be #1. I wouldn't even put it in my top 100. I probably wouldn't even put it in my top 250 if I'm being completely honest. And this is not a video of me hating on this film. I'm not going to sit here and ridicule this film. I'm not going to sit here and bash it. That's not my intentions for this video. My intentions, not only while making this video, I want to sort of better understand this film. And this is why I do. This is the sole reason why I do discussions, is so I can revisit these films kind of without rewatching it, just sort of talking about it and refresh my memory. And I had a very strong opinion for this film after I finished it. Now, while I might disagree that this film taking over the #1 spot for Sight and Sound's 2022 poll, I can understand why people would consider this film important. I can understand why this film is important, and I can understand why people would sort of gravitate towards this film in this particular time. Now, do I believe that it was political choosing this film? Absolutely. Do I believe... there's a lot of reasons why I think this film was chosen. This is a feminist film. I do consider it a feminist film. Back in the day, I would consider it probably a very political film. I would say mildly political, but I can understand why it would be considered political. And do I even like this film? Well, yes, I do like this film. I sat through it for 3.5 hours. Now, I'm just going to jump right on into it. This film, I think, is important because it really does sort of, it shows you the monotonous day-to-day life. It reminded me my routine every single day. Even though I try to switch it up every single day, I don't have, I don't have a normal life. Like, I do have a normal life, but I do a lot of interesting things. I do a lot of, different things throughout the day. I like to change things up, and I have been very fortunate that my days just end up different. There's always something to do. But this film really did remind me of the routines that you know, I associate myself with every single day: cooking, cleaning, getting ready in the morning for work, and how it is almost this endless cycle, and what happens when that cycle eventually breaks. That's all the stuff that you get to see Jean Delman do throughout the film. You get to see her cook, clean, take care of her teenage son. But as the film progresses, she sort of stumbles a little bit. You sort of see how this affects her. Now, obviously she would have to be at the brink, because at this film, if I remember correctly, it only takes place over the course of like 3 days. But, you know, it does sort of, it is almost a commentary, you know, for just a typical day-to-day life. It really is. And I feel like a film like that does have importance. I do believe that something like this is worth the watch, just so you can sort of dig into your subconscious and sort of realize a lot of these things, which is exactly what I did. This film is boring. It's boring as hell. When I was watching it, I was like, oh my gosh, we have to at least be an hour in. And I looked and I was like 37 minutes in. I was like, holy shit, I got 3 more hours of this film. I have 3 more hours. But nonetheless, this is a film experience that I'll never forget. I will probably never forget this film. I don't know if I'll revisit it ever or anytime soon, but I would maybe recommend checking it out. I would recommend maybe checking this film out. If you've got time and you're interested enough and you care what other people think about films, this would probably be one to watch. I think in the next 10 years, when 2032 comes around, I don't think this will be in the top 10, or not in the top 10, but I don't think it'll be number 1. I would be very surprised if it was. I do feel like people are sort of feeling a certain type of way. Like I said, this is just my opinion. I might be pissing people off, but I can't help it. I don't think this film is better than 2001. I don't think this film is better than Vertigo. I don't think this film is better than Citizen Kane. I don't think this film is better than a lot of films out there. But putting my own self-biases aside, I do understand why this film is number 1, or I could see why it would be, and I'll accept it, because honestly, my opinion has no sway over any of this. Personally, I would put my favorite film, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, another lower budget film that was made for a similar budget that this film was, but hey, whatever, fuck me, right? But that's Jean Dillman, I'm just gonna go ahead and try to pronounce it. Jean Dillman, 23, Quai du Commerce, 1080 Bruels. Yeah, I completely butchered that, but it's up to you if you want to check it out. I've explained it, sort of my opinions on it, and now I get to do a really clickbaity title like I watched Sight and Sound's greatest film. But anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a thumbs up and maybe subscribe. Stay safe out there. Let me know what you guys thought of Jean Dillman down in the comments below, and I'll see you guys next time.